Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast series. I am Nandita Gaur. I am a PGDM GM student at XLRI Jamshedpur. Today we have Venkat Subramanian with us today. He is a product manager at Google and have been working there for more than 4 years now. His experience spans various leadership roles at companies like Last9 Inc., Atlassian, Couchbase, Carrot Lane, Oracle in engineering and the PM department. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Nandita.
Sir, are you ready to begin with the rapid fire round?
Loaded.
One app you can't live without.
Google Maps.
That's awesome. So, if you weren't in tech, what you would be doing?
Oof. I think the way tech has spawned across, I would still be in tech, but I'm pretty happy with where I am. But if I have to do something else, I would probably do carpentry. I like physical stuff, so carpentry or artistry, something.
That's awesome. So, what do you dislike more, Monday mornings or Sunday evenings?
I think it's not about disliking. I think the anticipation builds up on Sunday evening for Monday. So if Monday is not reaching the expectations, it's about managing expectations. So it changes the narrative a little. So I think it's a Sunday evening extends till Monday noon, if I have to say.
That's right. So one product you wish you had built?
I would say still Google Maps. I really love the product because it solves a particular need that not many products actually solve. I think it has some very interesting product learnings for aspiring product managers that you can learn in terms of right from, very specific use case to what are the possibilities, the adjacencies that are possible, and at a scale that the whole planet can use as well. So I wouldn't say I wish I'd built, but there's a lot of lessons that even I have learned from Google Maps.
That's awesome. So this one is a trick question. What do you use more, Gemini or ChatGPT?
Oh, Gemini is pretty awesome in the sense. In the sense models have developed even Nano Banana that released last week. I think even if you see in the state of leaderboards now, Gemini 2.5 Pro has really has some advanced capabilities. We have continued to win lots of tournaments and things, and more than that, there's some real world impact that's happening. So yes, I think the way I see it is all competitors have some value. I think there are different players. We don't think it as competition. We think in terms of how to better our own products. So I think that evolution will continue as is.
That's awesome. So what's one thing people generally get wrong about PMs?
Interesting. I think, with the phrasing of PM as a CEO, it elevates it, but also does not talk about the actual reality of the job. I think there is a lot of elevation that you have to go back and forth up to. So sometimes you have to get the job done, but also think strategically. I think many PMs are not ready for that shifting in altitudes as such, and which can be learnt aside. But at the beginning, they're like, it sounds like a manager is part of the title and things, but it's a much more evolving role as we see. There's a lot of hands-on experience that is expected. There is a lot of like a 360 of the user that the PM needs to understand, and even missing out, for example, trust. If trust becomes an afterthought, the product gets impacted a lot. And so these are things that product managers need to think about. And as I said, it's an evolving role. There are new tools that are coming up. Keeping the learning mindset, that's extremely critical.
And that's great. So talking about the evolution, because you have worked a lot in the software engineering department, and then you pivoted towards product management kind of roles. So what drew you towards product management in the first place?
Yeah, so this was, I started being an engineer. I was at Oracle for a long time. I was a principal engineer there developing some large-scale systems. At that time, we did not have a product manager for the team. So it was up to me to go and understand what the users were doing, and analytics was not present much. I had to understand from some of the basic details what is happening and what is expected out of the users, whether they're actually getting the job done or not. I was solving some problems. I was speaking to my manager. Things were looking good in my own product, but I was in systems management, the way DevOps is narrated now. But I got a very good opportunity in analytics, and I just tried, and I did not know. In fact, in retrospect, I just joined the team, but I was the junior most in the whole team. All my peers were industry stalwarts who had sold their companies to Oracle, been at Oracle for a long time. So under their tutelage, learning was pretty awesome. So it happened, and after that, it's like continuation of the journey as such.
So it was more about like you were exploring the things and then you
Yes.
eventually
Yes.
pivoted.
Sometimes I hate to use the analogy, but go with the flow. Sometimes it's interesting because you understand a lot of things and see the tool that you get. There's a lot of learning opportunity in any tool that you get. Even if you take the glass, you can use that glass as an inspiration to build something. I think inspiration is a lot of self, motivation. All these things. I think there's a lot you can. If you use it as a learning thing, it goes beyond motivation.
That's right. Tapping into the same mindset, so I wanted to understand the difference between building something from 0 to 1 and 0 to 0.1.
I think this is a very interesting way of looking at things. You can look at 0 to 1, 0 to 0.1 or 1 to 100 as in terms of scaling number of users. Let's say, I'm doing something, but my narrative would be slightly different. I would use an analogy of doing something path-breaking, groundbreaking, which did not exist before, as a classic 0 to 1, wherein there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of downside risk. You don't know what the outcome is. Sometimes you don't even know what the target market is. You have a capability, you go and try, or sometimes it's just a random experiment, and it works out pretty well. That's one way of looking at 0 to 1, and 0 to 0.1 is one way. Another adjacent thing is how to make systems faster, better, cheaper. Analogy is flying did not exist earlier. Wright brothers came in and they made the first flight, whereas you have the jet engines now to automate autonomous machines, car drivers, etc. So there's a huge change. The driving aside, there is still a car, but the way it was used is completely different. It leads to a lot of economic prosperity, lots of other adjacencies as well. That's one way to look at it. I feel you can also look at it in terms of capabilities. The same from a product perspective, but let's say in speech, when I talk, my spoken words gets converted to written text. Can I work on the text directly, or can I use a waveform directly to work doing some interesting things? So AI now allows you to directly work on the waveform. So with multimodality in AI, you can use text, image, video, and other signals to do something interesting. So you can think along these in terms of another third way of looking at this is in terms of impact. Let's say I want to generate the first revenue. Right, first paying customer first. So 0 to 0.1 could be a beta, and then probably 1 as the first paying customer. But those are pretty classical way of looking at things. I think AI allows you to rethink some of these classical definitions.
Yeah, that's right. So, tapping into your research journey, you have filed a lot of patents at Google. So, I wanted to understand, how do you decide that something is worth protecting or something is just worth shipping it as soon as possible, like the first paying customer you mentioned?
Yeah, I think innovation is always, it's a mindset. I think it's a function of many environment variables and also some forcing functions. I think patent is an outcome. It's like revenue. I think the way I think about patents and many of these innovations is, are you changing something foundationally? Google has a very specific nuance on patents as such. I don't think none of us optimize for doing something for patents. It's a more of a defensible way of looking at things. But innovation, as I said, are you changing something foundationally, or are you making an innovator, plus one to something? For example, earlier today in the morning, Professor Giridhar was mentioning about banking. And also the dean was mentioning about banking. Earlier there was no internet banking, but banking as such has remained the same. Interesting trivia here is the teller role has remained the same, right, in the last ages and ages. So earlier, what has changed is, when you used to go into a bank, you used to have 5 to 6 tellers, and they had the same classical thing of note checking and things. But when internet banking came in, etc., the number of tellers in the bank has reduced. But what has happened is the number of branches has increased, right? So, and the role of the teller has also changed. Right, they are doing much more than this. They are doing relationship management and other things. So that's the way I think about this. Some of these nuanced behaviors.
That's great. So since we are touching upon the products which Google are creating, so they are mostly focused on the mass consumers, like how mass consumers, the products are so much user friendly. So tapping into your experience, since you are mostly focused on the research, so how do you translate that complex technology into something which is very much user friendly?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. At Google Research, I'm not a researcher, I'm a product manager. My job is to translate some of these amazing things that researchers do and take it to the masses per se. But we don't think in terms of masses technically, even with an enterprise customer at Google Cloud. I think my job is to understand where the user needs are, how the market is changing, what are the opportunities that are available, is this solving an actual customer problem, is this fundamentally changing their behavior, or is it making systems efficient? So, for example, we have certain things which, from Google search, if you see, hasn't changed a lot in the last many years in terms of the user experience. But the underlying technology that goes in terms of relevance ranking and things has changed considerably over the because new behaviors are emerging. We also have found new technologies that are helping. For example, multimodality. When you are searching for a particular text, how do you get some images there? Because we understand images and other multimodality stuff as such. So, to answer your question, I would say fix on the user always. And one anti-pattern here is thinking about the masses. I don't think any of us think in terms of the masses. We think about solving for a particular user segment and trying to solve their problem and slowly start just increasing the market segment. One thing we do, which I'm pretty sure as part of MBA as well you'll be doing is TAM analysis. But the nature of TAM itself is changing these days. As a foundational concept, it remains the same in enterprise customers, etc. But if you look at some of the, I'll give you a classic boring example. Databases have remained for 45 years, right? Nothing has changed in databases. It's still the same legacy vendors. There are new vendors that are coming in as well. I think there are close to 400 database offerings. But because of agentic, the way queries are happening is changing. The way it was more ad hoc queries, it's more general purpose queries, more natural language queries. So what does this mean for the database workloads, the way it is stored, etc.? It's a very boring problem, but it needs to be solved, right? And there are lots of innovation that are waiting to happen in this space, both from a storage perspective and also from a query perspective.
That's right. So along the same lines, what is a Google mindset to create the products which are more verbical in the nature?
I think everyone wants to become a verb. I don't think, again, it's a forcing function. It happens because of the widespread use case, etc. I think now because of ChatGPT is become a verb now as well. You don't say I want a coding assistant or a general purpose assistant. I think it's an acceptance by a mass market, and as product managers, again, you can't control what exactly is going to happen to a product. There are lots of scenarios wherein we build something, but customers end up using for completely different use cases. And this is both a good thing, but also it puts in some interesting things. For example, privacy, trust. How are you rewarding good behavior? How are you making sure that the bad behavior is either curtailed or incentivized? So these are some of the things that you need to think when you are building for, when you see that virality coming in. I think the problem comes when you hit that, so the classic S curve, somewhere here in the middle of the S is when you start realizing, oh, I didn't realize that, and that's why the learning and iteration are very important prioritization to follow. These three are like, the three legs of a tripod that keeps the base strong.
That's great. So you're involved with the launch of such great products like Search, Maps, Translate. So how do you stay grounded knowing that your product is literally touching millions of lives?
Oh, okay. So I didn't launch these products per se, but we can work with these different product areas to enable some of the technologies. I feel, keeping a student mindset is always good. It's very important that you have the tendency to learn because the landscape is changing a lot. It's changing at a breakneck speed. The capabilities are changing. I am saying, what was practical 6 months back, impractical 6 months back is possible now. I think compute, the way we think about compute, memory, all these things is changing. So thinking about, I would go back to keeping a student learning mindset and iterating, because sometimes what happens is you get into this lethargy mode. Hey, everything is changing. What do I do? Should I wait? I feel experimenting few things as students of XLRI as well, as part of coursework, if you can do small experiments just to see for your own problems, how is this helping, right? You have enough tool sets now. There are lots of free APIs around. Where is actually the challenge? And probably that can incur some interesting innovation. You might think, okay, this area, not many people are looking at. It's an untapped segment. For example, in India, the unorganized segment is huge. Is there a use case there that we need to go and solve? Is there a barrier between languages? Is there actually a compute barrier? So there are lots of possibilities. I think the opportunities with each of these technology waves, the opportunities only keep on expanding. So keeping an open view, open mind and understand, but also a bias for action helps sometimes.
So if somebody has to follow your footsteps, it would be all about that learning mindset.
I would say don't follow my footsteps. I would say, there is no instruction manual to live in. Each person has their own strengths and weaknesses, but the weaknesses is something that people index on a lot. I think people don't focus on the strengths much. Focusing on the strengths lead to better ROI in terms of the way, the classical definition of ROI is thing. But live. I think the most important part of living is living. You can follow, but at the end of the day, I feel that lots of human inspiration, motivation is by doing things and experimenting things, and keeping that open student mindset helps.
That's great. So, sir, is there any leadership lesson which you have learned at Google, which you wish that you had known earlier?
Oh yeah, of course. Google is an amazing learning spot to be in. I think after 16 years when I joined Google, I didn't realize that the learning curve would be so steep as well. I feel sometimes it's all about the mindset. I've realized that always you sometimes think that you are the commander of a particular product. As I said, the CEO of a product is a pretty bad definition. I think as you work on these interesting problems and you work with some of the smartest people on the planet, knowledgeable people, I feel you need to cultivate the mindset of a gardener. Like the way a gardener allows the flowers to grow, he makes sure that the soil is fertile, the water comes in at the right time, there's no shades or anything. So based on the plant that is growing, I give the requisite nutrients and things. That mindset is extremely important so that you enable the smart people in the room. And I believe that they are much more smarter. The researchers know the field really now. How do I make sure that there is a psychological safe space, that we can have a very honest conversation? There is good amount of disagreements, agreements. Prioritization for a PM is an important tool set. And that's where most of the conflicts come as well. So there's a lot of difference of opinions and things, and making sure that you actually show why something needs to be done. These are things that I feel there are different altitudes, right? As an engineer to even if you're a CEO or even if you're a prime minister, I think you have to solve the same problems at different altitudes as such.
The gardening mindset, it's a really good phrase. I will make sure to remember it. So what's next? Because generative AI is a talk of the town. So anything which you can share from your experience, which could be the next technology, disruptive technology?
I think technology, even now, I think we are just getting started with AI. Even though AI ML has remained for the past 30 years or so, there have been different subwaves, the smaller S-curves of things. I feel still we are scratching the surface with AI. One of the things that I'm particularly excited about is currently, I think people, when they talk about agentic and things, many of the evals and benchmarks around task completions, I think it's a very myopic view of things for that particular, but the opportunities are much larger. I think we need to think AI in terms of automation, augmentation, along with collaboration. I think the collaboration piece is still missing, wherein we offload a particular job for AI or an agent, but the collaboration aspect, the back and forth, it's a hard problem. Just so that it's a very messy problem. Because when do you stop? When do you for some questions, for example, when you're doing a keyword search in Google, you probably use 2 or 3 words, or probably 1 word, and you want to get. Now the expectation is you use those 2 or 3 words, but you want a complete solution, right? Now you want a even better agent, which actually does the full accomplishment of the task, right? It's not only about things, but also it should ask. So the way I would think along these lines is, I'll give you an example of Waymo, which is our driverless solution is. See, it's a Boolean outcome. You need to drive without any accidents, right? There's absolutely no other thing. If there's an accident, it's a problem, or if there is a user threat, right? So that's one use case, which I'm pretty excited about in terms of making sure that the systems are so good. And I've seen some videos, I'm pretty sure you would have seen in YouTube or X as well, wherein you can't even see people in the naked eye. Because of LiDAR and others, someone is coming from 100 meters away and you can spot, the system can spot, and accidents were averted. And that's a possibility of AI. And similarly, health. I think health is a very interesting use case. Health, education, agriculture, things that are applicable to India as well. Extremely valid use cases, and we're just getting started. I think along with regulations, user privacy, there are just lots of problems that needs to be solved.
So as a future product managers, we should continue to explore the possibilities of AI. That's right.
Explore and also do small experiment, iteration, as I said, because there is there's a classic middle path. Either you can express or you can suppress, but the middle path is observing and doing things. Right? So that's important.
Correct. So thank you so much, sir, for your time today.
Thanks a lot, Nandita, for the time.